What if I told you that most deaths after 70 aren't just a matter of old age, but preventable tragedies? You work your whole life, build a family, dream of a peaceful retirement. But then, one small mistake, one moment of ignorance, and everything changes. Imagine this. A grandmother, once full of life, now sits alone by the window, waiting for a visitor who never comes. A grandfather, strong his whole life, suddenly struggles to remember his way home. A simple fall, a cough ignored for too long, a moment of dizziness. These are the things that steal years away, faster than anyone expects. The shocking truth? 95% of deaths after 70 come from just 6 causes. Causes that don't have to be inevitable. If you knew what they were, wouldn't you do everything to avoid them? In this video, we're not just talking about statistics. We're talking about real lives, real choices, and real solutions that could mean the difference between struggling with illness or thriving in your golden years. If you want to take control of your health and future, comment 1 below, and let's dive in. Your life is worth it. Loneliness and depression. The silent killer. Among these 6 dangers, one often goes unnoticed, yet it silently fuels the rest: loneliness. While many assume physical diseases are the biggest threats, isolation can weaken both the mind and body, making seniors more vulnerable to every other health risk. Loneliness is more than just an emotion. It's a slow, invisible killer. While many people focus on heart disease, cancer, or other physical ailments as the leading threats to seniors, few realize that social isolation and depression can be just as deadly. It doesn't happen overnight, and there's no sudden pain or dramatic symptom to warn you. Instead, it creeps in quietly, draining both mental and physical health until it becomes too late to reverse. Research has shown that chronic loneliness in older adults significantly increases the risk of premature death. In fact, social isolation has been linked to a 50% higher risk of dementia, a 30% greater chance of heart disease, and an increased likelihood of strokes and weakened immunity. It's as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, yet it remains one of the most overlooked health crises in aging populations. At first, the signs seem small. Maybe someone starts speaking less, losing interest in their favorite activities, or feeling exhausted for no clear reason. Sleep patterns become disrupted, leading to restless nights and fatigue-filled days. Over time, chronic loneliness triggers depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts. Seniors who feel disconnected from their families and communities often experience a profound sense of purposelessness, like they've been forgotten, like their presence no longer matters. And when the mind gives up, the body soon follows. The effects of loneliness go beyond mental health. They take a devastating toll on physical well-being. The body's stress response goes into overdrive, increasing inflammation and blood pressure. This weakens the immune system, making it easier to fall sick and harder to recover. Depression leads to poor appetite, weight fluctuations, and decreased physical activity, all of which contribute to faster aging and a decline in overall health. When loneliness sets in, seniors become less likely to take medications properly, less motivated to eat nutritious meals, and less inclined to move their bodies, setting off a downward spiral that accelerates their decline. And yet, despite its dangers, loneliness is often dismissed as a minor emotional issue rather than a critical health threat. Many seniors themselves don't recognize the impact isolation is having on their well-being. They may even withdraw further, embarrassed to admit that they feel alone, afraid of being a burden on their loved ones. This silence makes the problem even worse, allowing depression and physical deterioration to take hold unchecked. The good news? Loneliness is not an inevitable part of aging. It can be prevented, reversed, and even healed. The key lies in staying socially engaged, maintaining regular communication with family and friends, and finding meaningful activities that bring joy and purpose. Because in the end, the difference between thriving in your golden years and fading away too soon isn't just about medical care or genetics. It's about connection, purpose, and feeling like you still belong. Cognitive decline, when the mind gets lost. Aging is often associated with physical frailty, but one of the most devastating aspects of growing older is the silent deterioration of the mind. Cognitive decline doesn't happen overnight. It starts subtly, with small lapses in memory or moments of confusion that are easy to dismiss. But over time, these seemingly minor forgetful moments can develop into something far more serious. Alzheimer's, dementia, or other neurodegenerative conditions that rob people of their independence, identity, and ability to care for themselves. The statistics are alarming. More than 6 million Americans currently live with Alzheimer's, and that number is expected to double by 2050. Studies have shown that 1 in 3 seniors dies with some form of dementia, making it one of the most significant health challenges in aging populations. And yet, many people assume that memory loss is just a natural part of getting older, failing to recognize the warning signs until it's too late to intervene effectively. Cognitive decline is more than just forgetting names or misplacing keys. It gradually strips away basic abilities, following conversations, managing finances, remembering to take medications, even recognizing loved ones. In its advanced stages, dementia turns everyday life into a struggle, making once simple tasks like dressing, eating, or navigating familiar places nearly impossible. The person affected may not fully grasp what's happening, but for family members, the transformation is heartbreaking. Watching a once vibrant loved one slowly disappear into confusion, fear, and frustration. The causes of cognitive decline are complex, but research points to several key factors. Poor cardiovascular health. The brain relies on healthy blood flow, and conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity significantly increase the risk of dementia. Lack of mental stimulation. The brain, like any other muscle, weakens when it isn't exercised. A lifetime of passive habits, repetitive routines, and limited intellectual engagement accelerates cognitive decline. Social isolation. Loneliness doesn't just impact mental health, it also contributes to memory loss and cognitive dysfunction. Seniors who lack regular social interaction experience a faster decline than those who remain engaged with others. Unhealthy lifestyle choices. Poor diet, lack of physical activity, excessive alcohol consumption, and sleep deprivation all increase the likelihood of developing dementia-related conditions. The worst part, by the time cognitive decline becomes noticeable, the damage has often already been done. That's why early intervention is critical. Keeping the mind active through reading, puzzles, learning new skills, or even engaging in deep conversations can significantly delay cognitive aging. Regular physical activity improves blood circulation to the brain, while a nutrient-rich diet, full of omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, and essential vitamins, helps protect brain cells from degeneration. Although there is no guaranteed way to completely prevent Alzheimer's or dementia, there are powerful steps to slow its progression and preserve mental clarity. The mind is the most precious asset we have, and protecting it should be just as important as caring for the heart or lungs. Because in the end, a long life is only meaningful if we can remember and enjoy it. Falls and injuries. One misstep can change everything. A single fall can change the course of someone's life in an instant. While many people fear diseases like heart attacks or strokes, Few realize that falls are one of the most common and most dangerous causes of death and disability among seniors. In fact, falls account for over 3 million emergency room visits every year in the U.S. alone. And for those over 75, even a seemingly minor stumble can have life-altering consequences. The body naturally weakens with age. Muscle mass declines, bones become more fragile, and balance deteriorates. Reaction times slow down, making it harder to recover from a sudden misstep. But because these changes happen gradually, many people don't notice them until they do. One moment, everything feels fine. The next, they're on the ground, unable to get back up. The consequences of a fall can be severe. Hip fractures are one of the most common injuries among seniors, and nearly 30% of those who suffer one die within a year due to complications. Those who survive often face a long and difficult recovery. Months of immobility, loss of independence, and increased vulnerability to infections, blood clots, and further health decline. Many never fully regain their strength, leaving them dependent on caregivers or confined to a wheelchair for the rest of their lives. But the danger doesn't stop at the physical injuries. The psychological impact of falling is just as devastating. Seniors who have experienced a bad fall, or even just a close call, often develop a deep fear of falling again. This leads them to limit their movement, avoid certain activities, and even withdraw from social interactions. Unfortunately, the less they move, the weaker their bodies become, creating a vicious cycle that increases their risk of falling even more. Falls don't just happen out of nowhere. They are usually the result of a combination of factors, including loss of muscle strength and balance. As people age, their muscles weaken, and their ability to stabilize themselves decreases. Vision problems, reduced depth perception, and poor eyesight make it harder to see obstacles. Medication side effects. Many common prescriptions cause dizziness, drowsiness, or drops in blood pressure, making falls more likely. Unsafe home environments, cluttered walkways, loose rugs, poor lighting, and lack of handrails increase the risk of tripping. The good news is that falls are not an inevitable part of aging. Simple but effective steps can dramatically reduce the risk. Strength and balance exercises, activities like Tai Chi, yoga, and light resistance training help maintain stability. Home modifications, installing grab bars in bathrooms, improving lighting, and removing trip hazards can make a home much safer. Regular vision and medication checkups, ensuring prescriptions aren't causing dizziness, and keeping eyesight sharp can prevent accidents before they happen. Aging should not mean living in fear of movement. Taking proactive steps to prevent falls doesn't just reduce injury risk. It helps maintain independence, confidence, and a higher quality of life. Stroke, the sudden storm in the brain. A stroke doesn't give a second chance. One moment, everything seems fine. The next, the brain is being starved of oxygen, and irreversible damage begins. Within minutes, brain cells start dying, and every passing second increases the risk of permanent disability or death. For seniors over 75, strokes are one of the leading causes of mortality and long-term impairment. What makes them even more terrifying is that they often strike without warning, leaving little time for intervention. A stroke occurs when blood flow to the brain is blocked, or when a blood vessel bursts, causing internal bleeding. The effects depend on how long the brain is deprived of oxygen, but even a short delay can result in devastating consequences. Paralysis, loss of speech, cognitive impairment, or even a complete inability to care for oneself. In many cases, strokes don't just steal years of life, they take away independence, mobility, and the ability to communicate. The biggest danger with strokes is that many people don't recognize the early warning signs. Unlike a heart attack, which often causes severe chest pain, a stroke can be more subtle. Sudden dizziness, confusion, numbness on one side of the body, or difficulty speaking are all red flags. But because these symptoms might seem mild at first, people often dismiss them, wasting precious time that could mean the difference between recovery and permanent damage. There are two main types of strokes. Ischemic stroke. This is the most common type, caused by a blood clot blocking circulation to the brain. It often results from years of high blood pressure, cholesterol buildup, or an irregular heartbeat, such as atrial fibrillation. Hemorrhagic stroke. This occurs when a weakened blood vessel bursts, leading to internal bleeding in the brain. It is often linked to uncontrolled high blood pressure and can be even more deadly than an ischemic stroke. What makes strokes particularly tragic is that up to 80% of them could be prevented. Several key factors increase the risk, including high blood pressure. The number one cause of strokes, yet it often has no symptoms until it's too late. Atrial fibrillation, AFib, an irregular heart rhythm that increases the likelihood of blood clots forming and traveling to the brain. Unhealthy lifestyle habits, diets high in salt and processed foods, lack of physical activity, and smoking significantly raise the risk. Dehydration and thickened blood. Not drinking enough water can make the blood more prone to clotting, increasing stroke likelihood. Despite the risks, there is hope in prevention. Regular blood pressure monitoring, heart checkups, a balanced diet rich in leafy greens and healthy fats, and daily movement can significantly lower the chances of a stroke. Acting early is key, because once a stroke happens, the window for effective treatment is incredibly short. Aging doesn't have to mean living in fear of an unexpected catastrophe. By taking control of health now, the risk of strokes can be dramatically reduced, allowing more years of independence, vitality, and a life lived fully. Heart disease. A weary heart. After years of neglect. The heart is a powerful, tireless muscle, beating more than 100,000 times a day, pumping life through the body. But like any machine, it wears down over time, especially when it has been neglected for years. Heart disease remains the leading cause of death among people over 75. Yet many don't realize just how much control they have over their heart health. Unlike strokes, which strike suddenly, heart disease is a slow, silent killer. It develops over decades, often without noticeable symptoms until it reaches a crisis point. Many seniors assume that feeling tired, short of breath, or slowing down is just a normal part of aging. In reality, these could be early warning signs of a struggling heart. The real tragedy is that, for many, the first sign of trouble is a heart attack. By then, the damage has already been done. The most common forms of heart disease include coronary artery disease, CED. A buildup of plaque in the arteries restricts blood flow, increasing the risk of heart attacks. Heart failure. The heart weakens over time, struggling to pump blood efficiently, leading to fluid buildup in the lungs and body. Arrhythmias. Irregular heartbeats, such as atrial fibrillation, can increase the risk of strokes and sudden cardiac events. Several major risk factors accelerate heart disease, many of which are preventable. High blood pressure, hypertension, often called the silent killer. High blood pressure forces the heart to work harder, weakening it over time. High cholesterol. Excess cholesterol forms plaque in the arteries, narrowing them and increasing the risk of blockages. Poor diet. Diets high in processed foods, saturated fats, and excess sodium slowly damage the cardiovascular system. Lack of exercise. A sedentary lifestyle weakens the heart and contributes to weight gain, diabetes, and poor circulation. Chronic stress. Long-term stress raises cortisol levels, which can contribute to high blood pressure and inflammation. The effects of heart disease extend beyond just physical health. A weak heart means reduced energy, difficulty performing daily activities, and an increased risk of cognitive decline. Many seniors find themselves unable to do the things they once loved, gardening, traveling, even simple walks, because their heart no longer has the strength to keep up. The good news is that it's never too late to take control. Simple lifestyle changes, eating heart-healthy foods, reducing sodium, engaging in light physical activity, and managing stress, can not only slow down heart disease but, in some cases, even reverse some of the damage. Regular checkups and medication management are also essential in keeping the heart strong. The heart is the engine of life, and its health determines how long and how well a person lives. By making small, consistent choices, anyone can protect their heart and ensure that it keeps beating strong for years to come. Respiratory diseases. The final breath no one sees. Coming when the heart weakens, the lungs suffer too. Poor circulation can lead to breathlessness, increasing the risk of lung infections and other respiratory diseases that make every breath a struggle. Breathing is something we take for granted until it becomes a struggle. For many seniors, respiratory diseases develop so gradually that they don't realize their lungs are failing until it's too late. What starts as occasional shortness of breath or a mild cough can quickly escalate into life-threatening conditions, leaving them gasping for air, unable to perform even the simplest daily tasks. Respiratory diseases are one of the leading causes of death after 75, yet they often go unnoticed in their early stages. Unlike a heart attack or stroke, lung disease doesn't always cause sudden, dramatic symptoms. Instead, it creeps in quietly, making everyday activities, walking, climbing stairs, even speaking, progressively harder. By the time many seniors seek help, their lung function has already declined significantly, limiting treatment options and recovery. The most common respiratory diseases affecting older adults include chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a progressive disease that includes chronic bronchitis and emphysema, leading to inflammation and reduced airflow in the lungs. Pneumonia, a lung infection that can become deadly in seniors due to weakened immune systems. Pulmonary fibrosis, a condition where lung tissue becomes scarred, making breathing increasingly difficult. Lung cancer, often detected too late because early symptoms are mild or mistaken for other illnesses. Several key risk factors contribute to respiratory disease. Long-term exposure to pollution and smoking. Even if someone never smoked, years of secondhand smoke, air pollution, or workplace exposure to chemicals can lead to irreversible lung damage. Repeated lung infections, chronic bronchitis, pneumonia, or untreated respiratory illnesses weaken lung function over time. Poor indoor air quality. Mold, dust, pet dander, and household pollutants can silently damage the lungs, making breathing more difficult. Sedentary lifestyle. Lack of physical activity leads to weakened lung capacity and lower oxygen intake, accelerating respiratory decline. One of the most dangerous aspects of respiratory disease is its ability to trigger a downward health spiral. When breathing becomes difficult, people move less, further weakening their lungs and muscles. The lack of oxygen can impair cognitive function, increase heart strain, and make infections more severe. Many seniors with respiratory diseases also develop anxiety or depression, fearing that the next breath could be their last. However, lung health can be protected and even improved with the right steps. Avoiding pollutants and smoke exposure, clean indoor air, stay away from smoking environments, and use air purifiers if needed. Staying physically active. Even light exercises like walking or breathing exercises can strengthen lung function. Getting vaccinated, annual flu shots, and pneumonia vaccines significantly reduce the risk of severe infections. Recognizing early symptoms, seeking medical attention at the first sign of persistent cough, shortness of breath, or fatigue can prevent a minor issue from becoming life-threatening. Breathing should never be a battle, yet for too many seniors, it becomes just that. By taking action now, lung health can be preserved, extending not just lifespan, but also quality of life, ensuring that every breath is taken freely and fully. Aging is inevitable, but suffering from preventable illnesses is not. The truth is, most deaths after 75 don't happen by chance. They happen because of choices made years before. Heart disease, strokes, respiratory failure, cognitive decline, deadly falls, and loneliness are not just unavoidable parts of growing older. They are the result of years of neglecting small but critical aspects of health. The biggest mistake people make is assuming they have no control over their fate. They believe that losing strength, memory, and independence is just part of the process. But research and real-life stories prove otherwise. Small, consistent changes can add years of vitality and freedom. Eating nutritious foods, staying active, keeping the brain engaged, and surrounding oneself with a strong support system aren't just recommendations. They are lifelines that can determine whether the final decades of life are spent thriving or struggling. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: it's never too late. No matter how old you are or what health challenges you face, today is always an opportunity to make a change. The body has an incredible ability to heal, adapt, and regain strength when given the right care. So, what will you choose? Will you wait for warning signs, hoping they never come? Or will you take action now? Because in the end, longevity isn't just about how many years you live. It's about how well you live them. A longer life means little if it's filled with pain, fear, and regret. But a life well lived, full of strength, clarity, and connection, that is a legacy worth fighting for. The decision is in your hands. The time to act is now.